Hi there, welcome to Freaky Big Mastery today. How many of you would like to get freaky big without taking drugs? How many of you have wanted to go into training and not wanted to use chemicals to build your body? And how many of you have been in the gym and saw other guys growing or wondered how you could have the extra muscle yourself? Well, if you answered yes to any one of those questions, you came to the right place. My name is Wade McNutt, and I'm a natural national bodybuilding champion, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the secrets that I've learned throughout my career to help you build your body. So, before we get into that, I want to thank you for taking the time to review this information. And I promise you that if you spend the next few minutes with us, you're going to learn a great deal about how to reach your goals a lot faster than you would if you're trying to figure it out on your own. So, thank you for coming here. We hope you enjoy the routine. So, before I get into this, I want to share with you a little bit about my background so you know where the information is coming from. I think it's really important when you're out there examining all the different formats that are out there with the internet and bookstores of where information is coming from and who is your coach and who's learning. And so, I've been a natural bodybuilding champion, competed at the Mr. Universe. I've been a personal trainer for over 15 years. I've worked with some of the top professionals in the bodybuilding industry, guys like Scott Abel, Joe Gold. I've been influenced by Vince Gironda. The list goes on and on. I won't get into that too far as I could be here all day. So the question becomes in order to go to point A to point B generally you need some sort of system, some form of format to get there. But oftentimes when you're starting out, or even if you've gone a little ways down the road, you realize you don't know where you're going. So first off, you need to have a clear vision. So determine what that vision is for you right now. So take a few seconds and think about, if I had unlimited time, money, and energy, what would my body look like? What would I really want? And so I want you to get a really firm picture of that in your mind before we start. And then as we go through the sequence and the information today, you're going to start seeing how these pieces fit together that are going to build that vision for you. So I want you to really take the time, do that, and come back to us, and we'll get rolling on these questions. Alright, welcome to the next episode of Freaky Big Mastery, and today we're going to be doing one of the foundation programs, and this differs significantly from the other routines. And what we're doing here is we're trying to overload the nervous system's capacity to fire high intensity muscle fibers in your system. So when you're going to look at this routine, and as we go through it in the gym today, you're going to know that the sequencing, the rep ranges, and then how much volume that we're doing per body part changes significantly over endless growth or over the building mastery. So what we're going to do is we're going to get right into the workout. We're not going to mess around too much. We've got the program written down just like everything else. And then the next thing, of course, back to the sequence. Always start with the mass signs. Pop a few here in the hand. Push them back. Take a big slug. Let's get ready for the growth zone. Okay, we're going to start off today with bent over rows. And one of the differences of the foundation is this is one of the later foundation workouts where we're into the lower rep ranges. So one of the things that we advise you to do is do a few warm-ups until you work into your working sets. So if you're doing sets of 5 or 6 or something like that, you don't want to start off with 5 or 6. A couple sets to get warmed up, get the blood flowing, and get the movement so it's nice and smooth. So unlike most guys, I like to do it this kind of like old school, where you get right down over the bench, standing up on the bench, that way I can get a full stretch on the lats. Okay, head at a 45, and roll right to the chest. One of the things we also want to be doing when we're doing these is explosive movements. Same sort of thing as, part of foundation training is we want to move that weight through space as fast as possible. And speed is king in all the sports. And it's also king when we're talking about building muscle mass, and also how quickly you can activate the muscle fibers in your body. So foundation training is very explosive lifting.
You want to generate as much power as possible, as opposed to when you're in isolation movements where you're trying to have as much tension on the muscle. So both parts are important. Powerful, explosive techniques, as well as time under tension. Knowing where and when to put those in, that's what the whole mastery course is about. So when you're doing your warm-ups, right, you can move fairly fast. One of the things, though, you want to note of when you're doing a foundation routine is you don't have to worry about the speed so much. So in other words, you want to go all out on each set and take as much time as necessary between the sets to rest. So if you have a set, you know, when you're going really hard on some of the deadlifting or some of the heavy squats, you may be taking even 10 minutes between sets, especially if you're doing something like a 12 sets of 12 or 10 sets of 10. You get up to that 8th, 9th, 10th set, your body's going into system fatigue, and that's what we're doing. We're overloading the entire system, the whole nervous system. So the trick is the volume. That's what forces your capacity to grow, to expand. Now we're getting into the meat of it here. Really starting to feel things warm up. So let's get into the working sets. Well, to me, the perfect tricep looks like that nice horseshoe shape. It has a lot of big thickness coming out of the back, fullness here, the striations coming down each side, so that you can see the clear definition. Probably one of the most ideal triceps that was ever created was by Bill Pearl, and that's the vision I use when I'm training my triceps.
So how many warm-up sets do you like to do, Wade?
For me, it depends on how heavy the weight is. So for example, I get by on 2 to 3 sets, but I've seen me do as many as, 5 warm-ups, gradually pyramiding up. So on exercises like squats, for example, right? If I'm into a power stage late in the foundation training, I would be going for, if I'm at a 3-rep range or a 5-rep range, I might do 6 warm-ups progressively. Starting maybe 135, 185, 225, 275, 315, 365, and then I'm into my work sets. Okay, so then the work sets start. If it says 3 times 3 at that point, the work sets start when I actually get to my working weight. So that's the difference. So the pyramiding up, I usually tend not to pyramid up more than 50 pounds in a warm-up. So that's the rule of thumb for me.
Yeah, great tip I heard too, when you're doing your warm-up sets, is trying to do as many reps as you can and try to improve that every time. I know Arnold was kind of big on that, doing lots of reps on his warm-up sets as well. And that's a good strategy in general too, I think.
That's one of the things you can kind of play with. Now that's our first working set on that one. So we got the weight up to a point. Again, we're using explosiveness. And so there's a fine line between momentum and explosive power. And until you learn that, it's better to err on the side of a little bit slower. I've been doing this a long time, so I've mastered, explosive type lifting. Of course, I don't do a lot of foundation routine now. Typically my workouts, because I've got past that stage where I'm staying more in the growth zone of the mastery workouts. But for you that out there that's trying to get, to that stage where you're in the intermediate or you want to get to an advanced, or even if you're a beginner, this is where you got to start working it. And you should be spending, 1, 2, 3 years in this type of training to build that foundation so that when you hit the other exercise routines, your body just explodes with growth. And that's why a lot of traditional athletes in power sports make the conversion over to bodybuilding, and they're so successful because they build a strong neuromuscular base that when they switch the training over to a growth-oriented program, they just explode, which is much easier than an athlete that hasn't. So what we've done is we've incorporated the foundation training so that when you do switch over to one of the other mastery programs, whether it's Endless Growth or whether it's the Mastery Size program, the results are quick. So that's part of the sequencing that may not be apparent when you first start out in training. The point is, stick with the program, trust the results, you get there.
So when we're talking about maximum bicep development, we're talking about a bicep that is nice and full down on the insertion points, that has a nice peak, and also a lot of thickness here between the muscles, so when it flexes, you see a nice big, not only a bulging bicep as it comes up, but it's full, it's peaked, and of course we want that ultra hard density.